Hello, everyone. And welcome to today's interview. Super excited about the conversation we have planned for everyone. We'll be focusing on the ways to highlight the impact of CS through data, a topic I'm sure our audience thinks about on just about a daily basis, and something I know our clients are constantly discussing with us. Before we hop into the Q&A, just some very quick introductions. My name is Chris Keene, and I'm the head of marketing here at Zowie. As I mentioned, incredibly excited about the incredible guest we have joining me today, Brianna Moreno, VP of CX at True Classic. Brianna, why don't you say hi to the audience and introduce yourself?
Hello, everybody. I'm so honored to be here. Thank you, Chris, for having me again. Looking forward to the amazing questions I'm sure you have lined up for me.
Yes, like I said, hopefully we don't trip you up. But likewise, so excited to have you joining us today to share your experience and expertise with our audience. Before we get into the discussion and those questions we mentioned, why don't we hear a little bit more about yourself? Can you tell us a little bit about your background, how you ended up where you are today, and your current role at True Classic?
Yes. So I was in the customer support space prior to joining True Classic and had obviously some really good experience with building, scaling, and really kind of making support teams efficient. And True Classic found me. One of the co-founders found me, I think on LinkedIn or something. And we hit it off right away, and they wanted to have me come over and build out their support team. They were running it themselves between the two of the three co-founders, kind of just manning social media and customer service issues. And it was time, because the company was scaling so quickly, that they needed somebody to really build out their customer support team. And what interested me the most in them was just the intentionality in them really genuinely caring about their company. So right off the bat, I knew that it was a match made in heaven. And ever since then, it's just gone up from there. We've grown our team. From when I started, it was me with two other people. And now we are over 20 people in a support staff with ridiculous impact. And I'm just beyond honored and grateful to be here, especially with the trajectory that this company has taken so far.
Yeah, and I think that's a pretty amazing growth to highlight, taking something that's founder-led, a department that is founder-led, and being entrusted is something that I know is very difficult, and to bring it to where you've brought it now is so impressive.
Thank you.
And just in terms of your team now, obviously 20 people, maybe just a little bit about something like your biggest projects and focus areas, and what you're passionate about right now as a leader.
Yeah, I think for me, the biggest piece of kind of my overall directives is just efficiency. I always want to make sure that we're working efficient and that we're not wasting our time, customers' time, the company's time, and that we're really intentional with our processes to make sure that, we're retaining as much revenue as possible while providing the best experience we can. So for me, I'm constantly looking at our team to be proactive, motivated, dedicated to be here with that competitive spirit, because we are looking at being the, leaders within the industry. So I think for me, efficiency is the top of my list as far as directives and goals.
Yeah, and we're definitely going to dig into the efficiency side of customer service and how you're looking at that as data team. And before, let's talk about, because you're leading a team of 20 people. Maybe just a little bit about your philosophy for running this department within your organization. How do you want to be viewed from other leaders, other departments, and what pillars guide your decision making on just like a day-to-day basis in terms of managing a team of that scale?
Yeah, such a good question. We definitely have our processes down to almost a science. I think when you've been doing this for so long, you tend to be really good at expecting the unexpected and preparing for that. And so for me, aside from efficiency, I'm working to build a team that's fully empowered so that they can make decisions and that they're solution oriented to be able to drive our customer experience. And like I said, we're not looking to follow anybody. We are truly geared towards leading the industry and really changing that mindset. As far as pillars, when I think about like our strategy and what are my top pillars, I think I look at like what is the impact of the situation that we're discussing, whether it be a problem that we're solving for, maybe multiple customers, or just looking at department directives. I'm always going to look at what's the impact, and then what is a solution that's both valuable to our customer per se, if they're included in this, or our company. And then I'm always looking at what can we do better on our CX side, both internal and an experience that we're providing to our customers. And a lot of that, like I said, is being out front, being prepared, making sure that our team is prepared. I don't ever want my team to get caught off guard. And I often say to them, back when I would do like interviews of people to onboard, I would say, I never want you to feel like you're swimming in an ocean by yourself with no life raft. Because sometimes that's how you can feel, especially in a remote situation, and you're dealing with people that could potentially be unhappy about something. So that empowerment and really, building our team up, I think is so important and really makes a big impact. And people that have worked for me over the years have always said that. It's something that I pride myself in, is really, it starts at the top. And I want to make sure that we harness a really great culture. Yeah. And I'm never going to ask my team to do something that I wouldn't do. But at the end of the day, we're really striving to be proactive and, like I said, lead the industry, and nothing's going to break us. I really break it down and keep it simple. Like, we can get through anything, and we will get through anything. And because of all of our processes, knock on wood, we've really not had any catastrophes thus far.
Yeah, there's so much to take away from a few things I definitely want to dig into. I think we'll circle back to the culture aspect, but something you said, and I think is really interesting. You feel like you have your processes down to a science, which takes months, years, I think, especially as a team grows. And now with a team of your size, how do you think about kind of QAing those processes and make sure they are running smoothly? Because, you're constantly, I'm sure, adding new members to the team as people come and go, and it's a lot of moving parts. So, keeping those processes in place, how are you thinking about that moving forward?
Yeah, you know what? I always say that to everybody, to my leaders that I'm mentoring, and anybody even within the organization that I may have conversations with, is never get stuck in a situation where you're saying to yourself, look, this is how we've always done it and it's always worked and I'm not going to change it. We're always looking with an open mind at, is there something we could be doing better? And I think when you empower your team and you give them a voice, you will start to learn so many different perceptions from them over maybe a process that you have in place that maybe you wrote the process you didn't see. And I challenge my team constantly with that, of like, what is the impact, right? What is the impact versus the risk? And is it worth it? Is it worth the time spent for, 0.2%? Like it just, you really got to weigh those processes, because sometimes it's really not worth it. And you're either going to send your customer in a spiral of frustration or your team. So constantly reevaluating, and especially with our market and all of the innovations and the things that are changing, I think in customer support, we're the most inept to accept change, because we're constantly moving. We're like fluid, right? We have to fix or solve for anything that happens. And most of the time, those are all situations we didn't create. We didn't self-create these issues or errors or challenges, right? But we have to solve for them. And so it's the same philosophy. Like, we have to challenge ourselves to think through processes and to make sure that it makes sense and it's impactful to the business in a positive.
I think that's, so people, I think, lose sight of that customer service is dealing with the problems of other parts of the organization, not problems that they've necessarily created. So, and those are constantly changing. And getting into the data side, and first, the expectation that your team's efficiency remains the same, right? Or gets better. And costs are staying the same or are
Right.
going down. So,
Right.
digging into that, the pure production efficiency side, and this is, I think that the brunt of what we want to dig into is how are you measuring that on a day-to-day basis, and in a way that highlights this work that your team is doing. How are you making it clear to every department that what your team is achieving every day is actually solving these problems?
Yeah, yeah. So for me, I've always been remote since I got into the customer service type industry. But I personally believe, and this is just my personal opinion, that it allows us to work in an environment where we feel that we're most comfortable, right? And we're able to give the best version of ourselves. And for people that disagree and think, remote work is less productive, I'd obviously be happy to debate you on that. But again, you have to make sure that you're assuming you've vetted and hired people that you feel are able to succeed in that environment in a remote position, right? I have that built out in our onboarding before we even, interview somebody is, what type of environment, how do you thrive? And that way I know, okay, they're going to be a self-motivator or they're not. But besides that, I'm also monitoring the actual work that's being done daily. And so to your
Mhm.
point, that's how I'm measuring productivity. So there's no other department within our org that can really monitor productivity day to day like support can, right? Because we're touching tickets every day. So I'm really able to showcase how much we're getting done. And we look at that average across the entire department. And I showcase that to everybody because that allows everybody on this team to understand where they're falling and where they may need to, turn it up, or they may be able to puff their chest a little bit because they're maybe producing really great numbers, whatever that may be. But then I take that data, right, of how much we've gotten done in such a little amount of time, and I showcase that to our org, and we
Yeah.
showcase how much revenue we're bringing in, and retention is huge, and even the lifetime value of the customers that are engaging in support versus those who are not. You'd be blown away to see that. And again, that all goes into play, and that's how we showcase that productivity, and making sure that we are always adding value. And if there is not value being added, then I'm going to reevaluate that process, and make sure that nothing that we're doing on this side is going to hinder the success of the company for sure.
Yeah, and I actually love that onboarding. About that's something I do with everyone I work with, isn't about me, because as much as you want to treat people like a peg goes in here, you kind of you can lift
Right.
and replace. It's not everyone's their own person. They work differently. They work
Yep.
better. Um, and it's I think that gets it becomes even more of a challenge for a manager in remote work. But it's so interesting. I think that is such a hot fun topic about trying to get people back to the office. But clearly, you are of the belief that remote is just as
Yeah.
or more productive. I'm curious, what makes you so strong in that belief, and do you have anything that has enabled your team to be so successfully remote? Because I'm sure people are thinking about this at this very moment as well.
100%. I think it's who you hire first and foremost. Let me preface with that. But I will tell you, we are so much more productive. And the team that I've hired, the girls that have followed me for years, they can produce probably 4 times the amount of work as an average support agent could
Mm,
produce. And that is because we really work in such an effective way. And I've trained them to just, not sit there and dwell and think, and to be out front to build process around what we're going to do. Like there's just so much strategy around it. And at the end
yeah.
of the day, that is why they are so much more impactful than the average support agent. And obviously I know that because, I have industry colleagues and what have you. But again, for me, the remote piece is it's a less overhead, right? At the end of the
Mhm.
day, I don't have to supply brick and mortar, electricity, all of that. And these people that are dealing with customers day in and day out that are generally here to complain about something. Um, they're in a better place. They're in a better state of mind
Yeah.
if they're in their home or, whatever that may be. it's just a better environment for them. And so naturally, they're going to be less stressed. They're not having to commute to work, stress about getting there on time. I don't have to worry about people taking breaks and going to the bathroom for 30 minutes and, who's manning the queues. It's just, we really have it down to a science. And again, with my rapport in the industry, it starts at the top. And if I'm not here at my desk working and producing work, then it wouldn't work, but I am. And so I emulate everything that I'm expecting of my team. And we've been so successful at it that I just don't understand why more people think that it's better to stick support agents in a cubicle for 8 hours a day and expect them to give you their very best. I really don't. And I believe that with my whole heart.
Yeah. And I mean, to your point as well, if you have the data to show the efficiency, there's no arguing against
There's
that,
no
especially
arguing.
in an area where it's so black and white, but what
Right.
the efficiency is and what
Right.
your team is producing. And I think to your point, it starts at the top and you need to be that driving force. So I think that's
Yes.
certainly a big takeaway for anyone in a similar position. And speaking of starting at the top, something else you mentioned was and kind of moving into that revenue potential of customer service and really being intentional about it. How have you thought about building your team to be intentional about driving revenue? Whether it be from, and you touched on this briefly, a culture of trying to drive, getting the agents really competitive about it, and maybe more from a tactical standpoint. What are you actually doing to drive revenue? And how are you measuring that and making sure it's seen across the company? So a lot to dig into there.
Yes. Yeah. I think automation is super helpful. That's going to allow our agents to kind of focus in on maybe, better hanging fruit. I guess I would say that's going to allow us to maybe convert a first-time customer or, fix an experience that maybe went a little bit south. But at the same time with automation, I always want to make sure that our agents are available. So if anybody is like, I don't want the automation, let me bypass them and get to your agent, we're always available. So for us, in order to achieve the directives and the focus on revenue that I challenge my team with, is we are constantly working to advocate for our products. And I have to make sure that my team is the best, most knowledgeable on every aspect of our product. And so how do you do that? Well, our agents are wearing and using our product. And why? Because that allows them to know the intricacies of every detail of our product, right? They can, make a purchase online to understand how that whole flow happens. All the emails we send post-purchase, surveys we send post-purchase. I want them to feel every single aspect so they know and have a really clear understanding of what our customers feel like. And then they also know the product. That helps them deliver a better experience and helps them to problem solve should something arise with the product. Oh, I've had that happen. Here's what you do. We also communicate collectively as a team. So before we ever release a product, our team is equipped with everything they would ever need to know about the product. And then they're also going to get the product to try and to test it and all of that, right? Their goal is to work on converting first-time customers or retaining and saving any experience. Yeah. That's, at the end of the day, those are our two MOs, so to speak, right? We're focused on conversion and retention. And we measure that impact through gorgeous tickets and through data of conversion. And like I said, I'm even pulling back metrics on customers that engage with us versus don't and how successful we are. We'll run contests to encourage them. The conversion is part of our KPIs. Like everybody has to basically work and execute those minimal directives, and they get joy out of it. They love it. They think it's fun and exciting and challenging to try to either flip a script on somebody that may be upset or to try to convert somebody that's visiting our site for the first time. There's so many things that I'm looking at in 2023 too, But
Mm,
for me right now at this place, I love being able to have a human being on the other side of that chat that
yeah.
knows the product, like physically knows the product and can help somebody. And we've gotten so much feedback from our customers of how much they appreciate that, how much they appreciate that human interaction with with our team, and building that trust in kind of, what we know of our brand. And we should all be the biggest advocates, right? And that
Right.
is exactly what I try to instill in our team, and so far has been super successful.
Yeah, and you said so many things I love in that answer. I mean, first that you started with automation, which, something we believe very strongly in Zowie, that
Yes.
a lot of what you're talking about comes with the ability to automate effectively and automate only what is supposed to be automated. Without that, your team's never going to have the time, capacity to
Right.
do a lot of what you just discussed about. So we're true believers in that. And then, the theme of what I got there is like the role of the agents on your team is so, I think it's so different than what a majority of people think of a customer support agent who is just sitting there answering a ticket, dealing with a complaint. You're the product advocates. You're almost you're that frontline salesperson, which is,
Yes.
taking it into the direction I think that, this whole department is moving towards, which is amazing. And something you said, about being the advocates for the products, and you clearly do a lot of training. They're using the product. Do you actually segment your team at all in terms of like different types of product specialists, or is it kind of everyone trained the same way? I'm curious about that from a
Yeah,
tactical standpoint.
that's a really good question. So essentially, we will have our agents with, let's call them like priorities, right? So
Mm,
depending on their channel, they're going to have their priority, but everybody is cross trained, and I like to alter those
yeah,
priorities every 3 to 6 months, because
gotcha.
otherwise you're going to get, burnout, especially if you're on phones.
Yeah,
So we do like to change it up. Um, and making sure that everybody is getting experience in every channel, because every channel brings its own set of challenges or opportunities. So
yeah,
I definitely don't have anybody geared towards specialized, fragments of the business,
gotcha.
but they will work within priorities that we rotate often, because like I said, it makes them just so much more of a efficient, well-rounded agent. And it's again been really helpful to them because they get to see different aspects of the business through the different channels that we cover. So
Hmm.
yeah.
Yeah, and I'm going to follow up on that that idea of agent burnout, and I want to just do a little side on culture here, because it is such a, customer service constant. You're constantly being measured on your production and even, ability to drive revenue. It's constant. So they're feeling
Yeah.
that on a day to day basis. So you mentioned, switching their focus every, regular period. But how else are you thinking about building culture, developing, retaining, and nurturing talent, which is definitely, I think, a struggle for the entire industry, customer service industry, that it is such a tough job. It's so demanding on a day to day
Yeah.
basis that it's hard to develop that within a team,
Yeah.
especially one your size.
Yeah. I think that I'm a huge advocate for support agents. I think that uh, people should look at those support agents as an entry level position, to where I would hope that these people are slowly going to grow within the org, because they will end up being your most loyal and well-rounded employees. Thinking about it, they know every aspect of your business if you empower them like I do. um, they know everything, right? They know
Yeah.
operations, fulfillment, marketing, obviously support. They know so many intricacies of our business. And for me, I really ensure that I give them accolades and I acknowledge their efforts and their successes. Obviously, I set expectations, I hold people accountable, but I also make it fun.
Mm,
I relate with our team, right? I give them a voice, and I build relationships. And I think in a lot of organizations, they don't have a voice, or maybe they don't have that, relationship
yeah.
that we build and we nurture even remotely. And that's something that's really, really important to me, is I want this to be a safe environment where everybody thrives. And so my goal and my job is to help you succeed. So at the end of the day, you know, respect is earned both ways, and I
Mm.
earn their respect, and in turn they earn mine. And you know, if somebody isn't willing to give 200% every day, then they don't deserve to be on this team, because I personally am giving 300% every day. So
Mhm.
I have all of the confidence in knowing that I implore a really great and comfortable culture. Is it always easy and fun? No, we're working in support. There are definitely challenges. There's daunting issues like cleaning up, you know, messes that other people have created sometimes, but I like to keep it into perspective. We do mental health checks, you know,
Mm.
making sure that everybody's keeping into perspective, like, we are not writing bills into Congress. We are not, you know, doing heart transplants. Like, we're
Right.
literally a online brand selling
Mhm.
apparel, and we're going to do it really, really well. But at the end of the day, like, I don't want my team to get beat up. I don't want them to get
Yeah.
burned out. So we're constantly working on that from that perspective, and keeping it light and keeping it, you know, as fun as it can be. And I think, again, it starts at the top, like I've said, and we really resonate that through myself, through my managers, through everybody in the org. Obviously, our CEO and co-founders are amazing individuals that have built a brand that I am just honored to be a part of. And so each of us, it's our responsibility to emulate that. And I'm really proud of what we've built here. And that, like I said, you know, we were talking about before the interview, our team, it was just, they're in an amazing place. I was able to do a podcast. I think it was the Tuesday after Cyber Monday. And that's
Yeah.
because we've built such an amazing team, and people will not work for you like that if they're not happy. And so
Yes.
my job is, like, I want to make them happy, and I want to make this a place that they love to show up to every day. And having said that, they know it's not always going to be easy, but they trust me, and they're looking at me for guidance and directives, and that's my job. And so, like I said, we're constantly looking at ways that we can get better. And I listen to my team. I hear them.
Yeah.
If something's not working, or if they have an idea, they know that this is a safe space, and that we're going to take their feedback and certainly look at how we can possibly implement that in our processes. But for sure, I think that makes a big difference.
Yeah. Um, I couldn't agree more. Pretty much everything you touched on in terms of the leadership, and it starts with you, and
Yeah,
that sense of empowerment, I think, is honestly is most important, and something I say. Take the work seriously, but don't take ourselves too seriously. Right. At the end
exactly.
of the day, that's super important, I think, for everything. Even if you are maybe writing bills to Congress, still, I think that advice works. And one thing that I think is maybe a little unique to TrueCut, like, it does sound like you have truly great executive buy-in from, this from above. Maybe one question for you that is, for someone in a similar position to you, is running this department, maybe can't get that buy-in, or trying to push, this being more intentional about revenue. What is there anything that sticks out to you, things that you do highlight for the people you report to, whether it be daily, monthly, that makes them go, aha, I get it. This is, this is why we invest in this so much, and why it matters so much. Is there any advice you'd give to someone who's maybe struggling to make that connection?
Yeah, for sure. I think the guys look at me, and they know and trust everything that I'm doing on this side, which is such an honor to have. But I've really
Mm.
worked to earn that, right?
Yeah.
And how I've done that is, when I first came over here, I was able to show them that basically my processes, or my way, is going to ensure that we can get 4 times the amount of work done with less staff. And I really try to encourage across the company that we look at our teams, and make sure that we're supporting them, not just from a monetary standpoint, but also just that feeling of that culture, and understanding what these people are dealing with. So I like to highlight that. I like for them to understand, if you have inventory shortages, this is the impact that it makes on the team. And here's what the team has to do. Because I think that allows them to empathize, right? Instead of just assuming they're sitting here answering tickets all day and there's no, person behind it necessarily. You don't always correlate the two. The other thing is just really being able to highlight what we're getting done weekly. I do reporting weekly and monthly, but essentially what we're accomplishing weekly, that's going to also show the company the trends, right? To show, is your business going up? Are your, tickets going up? The other thing is identifying what are people coming to you and asking you about, or what are your top ticket types, because that's going to allow you and the company to make strategic moves to minimize that if at all possible, right?
Yes.
And obviously we're looking at what we're getting done in a day, and I'm offsetting that with the cost. What am I paying? What is my total overhead for my costs versus what we're bringing in revenue? And that in itself is like just the jaw drop. That's like, oh, wow. I've had CFOs come in and tell me like, oh my gosh, like you are the lowest cost department. Like you are running so efficiently. And it's one of my biggest goals. It's something that I'm really proud of is, we don't have to waste money, and we can be really intentional in what we're doing and achieve a lot of success. And I think once you see the impact that your support team is generating on your business revenue, it really puts things into perspective.
Yeah. I again, love it. I think that sticking on that reporting on a consistent basis and having it always be there, just making sure that it's always being highlighted, I think it builds so much trust in across the organization. So I love that. And then it's funny you said, like when a CFO is like, oh, aha, it's something we always like to talk about. It's like, no, your customer service can actually be thought of as, an acquisition channel or, an arm of marketing. You're spending all this money getting people to your website. This is actually maybe your best investment
and if you're not even listening, if somebody is, maybe you said something in your marketing email that pissed people off or that really resonated and created engagement, we need to report that up, because that's either something that you're going to be able to stop doing or continue doing and harness. So it's not just about the click and the engagement on the shopping side, but also what are your customers saying? So definitely build that data and report it up and really showcase, because a lot of times support can be off in its own little island, and they're doing their thing, but certainly make sure that you're taking the time to highlight the team and really showcase the value that you're adding to the organization.
Yeah. Couldn't agree more. And I'm failing a little bit in my time management as a host here, but I have one more question for you, and then we have one question from the audience. So if we have a little bit of time, we'll go just slightly over here. So obviously, being a leader, you're very clued in. Got to get your opinion on what you're seeing in the CSCX space heading into 2023 and beyond. What do you expect the big trends to be? The big talking points. So love your opinion on that.
I think we're going to see just a ton of automation and AI. I know it's knocking on our door, and it's super cool and innovative to think about that, computers can learn kind of like our patterns simply by, what we're doing on our phones or our computers. So I know that's going to be here. It's already here. But I think we're going to see that filtered throughout even the support side of things. Aside from just marketing and operational pieces, I think we're going to start seeing that AI coming over here. Obviously, there's so much with innovation on like video for e-commerce companies of video opportunities for brands to utilize. And again, thinking through all of the apps that are trying to make things easier on people. I think we're going to see more and more of that for sure, which is great. But certainly I will be looking to create as much innovation as possible. I want to do the things that nobody's doing. I'm not necessarily somebody to jump on a bandwagon. I want to be out in front of it before, but I will never, ever fall far from the original human
Yeah.
contact, pick up a phone and call us, because I do believe that we should be wherever our customers are, and that's going to be different across some, generations and
Yeah.
what have you. But again, um, we're going to keep it classic like we do, and be super innovative with everything on the front, and still have all of the traditional support opportunities as well.
Yeah. I think that, I mean, the customers are constantly changing where they are. So support's ability to adapt to that is, I think, a constant struggle. Obviously, the AI and automation is something we are very close to here at Zowie. Not to open up the whole camera, we have a separate conversation, but are apprehensive about it, positive, negative thoughts, skepticism. I'd love your just very quick uh, thoughts heading into what I think you think is going to be adoption of more of this type of technology. Really
I
quick.
mean, I'm super excited about it. I've been talking to vendors about really good, you know, programs out there,
Mhm,
that I'm excited to look into and to dive into more in 2023.
mhm.
Like I said, I'm never afraid of the change. I
Yeah,
think we're used to that. We're constantly evolving and changing, and so I'm excited. I'm really excited to see what's out there. I'm not worried about it, from an aspect of replacing humans. I think again, there's always going to be that need, right? There's always going to be the need for a customer service agent to really work through a situation with somebody. And I think that the innovation and the automation is going to help our agents not have to focus on,
yeah,
the little stuff, and will allow them to be more impactful.
great. Um, okay. Again, we're a little over, but I do have one question from the audience here from Kamal, and then we'll wrap it up here.
Okay.
So he talks about experimentation, A/B testing. Um, it's obviously really important in terms of e-commerce website or the app itself for digital products. Sorry. Have you adopted any kind of digital experimentation optimization culture in your team or your customer support operations, using qualitative, quantitative data to um, identify A/B tests within your support applications and help validate what will move the needle in terms of efficiency and revenue goals? So yeah,
Yeah,
a
yeah,
little bit in there. Yeah.
we've definitely done A/B testing on some of our more so like our processes.
Mm,
I am a big proponent of ROI. So if I'm ever going to use a vendor's app, or service, I want to know that it makes sense and that it's either going to aid in the customer experience and some impact that's going to generate revenue, or it's going to offset time spent from my team that again will cut overhead. But certainly we've run A/B tests, and like I said, we are constantly looking at what is the most effective way. Never getting hung up in personal feelings, but really looking at efficiencies for sure across our org.
yeah, it's awesome. And one last question that just came in from the audience. I'm kind of gonna lie. And on the automation front, any workflows that stand out as being in most of need of automation? What are you really targeting on the automation side for your team
I think
first?
for everybody, Wismo, where's my order, returns, um, are just the easy ones. For me, I like to look at every situation as specific in itself. And
Mhm.
automation to me, I'm gonna provide. I'm a personal person who I can go on a website and I just want to figure it out myself. I don't want to have to chat
Yeah,
with anybody or anything. But there are other people that may not feel as savvy and they may just want to be able to connect with you. So my biggest directive is I will work to automate anything as much as possible to assist those people that are self-service. So, we have a self-service kind of section on our site to where people can click and get the answers themselves and figure everything out. And then we have chat and all of our various channels available, for people to actually connect with us. So it's really based on the individual. And my goal, Neil, is to always be wherever my customer wants me to be. And so I'm going to make sure that I'm strategic about that. But obviously, those low level tickets that come in that
yeah.
we can automate, we do that for sure.
Amazing. Okay. Well, I think it speaks to the topic and our amazing guests that people were answering questions 10 minutes after our allotted time.
Yeah.
But in the interest of time and being respectful, I just want to thank you so much for that. This was an amazing conversation. I feel like we could have talked for a few hours about some of this stuff, but
Thank you,
we want to
Chris.
make it a little bit more digestible. So thank you so
Yes,
much for
so
joining.
so much fun. If I can, I'll try to respond to some other questions in here after, if that's okay.
Yeah, that would be great. And I would
Okay,
say anyone watching, feel free to connect with us on LinkedIn, send us a message. We'll be happy to get back to you and connect and address any other questions we have. And
cool.
with that, I think we can wrap it up. Thank you everyone for joining us. Thank you again, Brianna, for being an amazing guest.
Thank you,
Um,
guys.
have a lovely new year, everyone.
Take care. Happy New Year.